Hello, and welcome to today's how to all about how to open the hips. Our hips are designed to have lots of mobility so that we can get up and down from the ground, we can squat and sit on the ground, we can climb and scramble over uneven ground, and lots more. But if we're spending most of our day sitting in a chair, or if we're only moving our hips in one direction, like when we're walking or running, we can lose this natural mobility in our hips, and it can really affect how we move throughout our day. Our muscles tighten and lose their elasticity, our joints become stiff and sore, and movements that should feel natural to us start to feel out of reach. But it is possible to regain the natural mobility that our bodies are meant to have. And today I'm going to be sharing some fantastic stretches with you that are designed for just that. Because when our hips are more mobile, not only do they feel better, but so does the rest of our body, especially our lower back and our knees. Pain and stiffness in these areas can be greatly reduced just by opening up the hips. And I think this is an important point to make. Stretching is not just about becoming more flexible. It's about reducing inflammation and risk of injury, and it's about optimizing how our muscles and our joints work so that we can feel and move our best throughout all stages of life. Now, I'm going to be sharing several different stretches with you of varying levels of difficulty, and so I invite you to try them on while listening to your body, honoring and respecting your specific needs and physical history, and then you can take the ones that feel best for you and practice them on a regular basis. I'm going to be giving lots of guidance so that everything that I share with you here today can be done as safely and effectively as possible. And so with all of that said, let's get stretching. All right, so this first set of stretches is going to be done against the wall. And so I recommend that you have enough space to fit the length of your mat, but you could also do these on your bed, having your legs up the wall or your headboard. I do that a lot at night, and it allows me to have a much better sleep. So I really recommend that. And all of the stretches that we're doing here are the same kind of stretches that you could do sitting up. Sitting up and stretching the hips is actually the hardest way to stretch out our hips. And so I encourage you, if you do want to challenge yourself, to practice these stretches first against the wall and then to take them up to sitting, okay, if that feels right for you. Okay, so we'll get started. I'll show you what I think is the best way to get into position, which is you want to scoot your hips back as close to the wall as you comfortably can, and then roll onto your side and bring your legs up the wall. Okay, now it is not important that you have your hips right up against the wall. You certainly can have them right up, but the most important thing is that you have the whole length of your spine and that your tailbone is able to be comfortably down onto the mat and that you feel comfortable through your body. Feel free to have a pillow or a towel underneath your head or your neck as you like. And this is our first position with the legs up straight, hip distance apart. And we'll just begin settling into a nice slow rhythm with the breath. Breathing in slowly and breathing out slowly. And just continue breathing in slowly and breathing out slowly. And just maintain that slow rhythm throughout this whole sequence. And we'll just begin focusing on our alignment. If you can reach your heels up towards the ceiling and flex the toes back towards your face, feeling your thigh bones, which are called your femurs, feeling them sink into the hip socket, feeling the tailbone sink into the mat. And then just staying here, checking out the alignment that your feet are flat on the ceiling. So you're not letting your ankles roll one way or another. They're trying to be flat and the ankle bones are even, and trying to see that your knees are pointing straight ahead, that they're not rolling in or out. And you can stay tuned for a future how-to where I'm going to give much more detail of exactly how to best align your knees and your ankles. But for the time being, just keep them as best aligned as you can and focus on the thigh bones sinking into the hip socket. And as you're breathing here, you can just keep the feet flexed. You could point through the ankles and flex through the ankles. That can actually affect what's happening through your hips. You could circle the ankles. And again, that can affect how it feels through your hips and through your lower back. So feel free to experiment and you can see what feels best for you each day that you practice. So just taking one more breath here in the position of your choice. And then we're going to open the legs out wide to the side. Okay, and so just start off where you're opening the legs as evenly as you can, remembering the most important thing is you keep the length of your spine and you feel your tailbone flat onto the mat. Breathing slowly here. And let's just start off with the feet flexed. So you're pushing out through your heels, your ankles are even. And you can just stay here, or if you like, you can rest your hands onto the inner thigh muscles, just giving them a little bit more awareness so that they can relax and stretch. Try to never put your hands onto the joint, onto the knee, but more right into the muscle. And as you're breathing in, feeling the muscles receive the breath, and breathing out, releasing tension. Lengthening your spine and reaching your tailbone down to the floor. For one more breath. And then we're going to bend both knees and bring the soles of the feet together. Now, really try to actually bring the pinky toe side of the feet together and then work towards opening the big toes apart. So that helps to open the hips up. Again, your spine is lengthened. The tailbone is down on the mat, so you can always move away from the wall if you need to. And you can just stay here and breathe. If you like, you could press your hands onto the thigh muscles, just gently pressing them towards the wall. Again, no pressure on the knees themselves. Make sure that your shoulders are staying down and relaxed. Okay, breathing slowly here. Breathing into the hip muscles. Breathing out tension. Okay, breathing in spaciousness all around the hips. And breathing out release. For one more breath. Okay, next variation, we're going to open the right leg out to the side. Okay, and then just staying here. Now, it's not important that the legs open evenly. It's more important that the hips are staying flat onto the mat. So you're not going to let one hip lift off. You want to keep them even. And just staying here, you could keep pressure onto your left thigh if you like. You could have pressure onto the right inner thigh. Just whatever feels best for you. And breathing here again, your right foot could just stay flexed. You could flex and point. You could circle the ankle. Whatever feels best for you, just keeping your focus into the pelvis, into the feeling of softening down into the mat, and feeling the thigh bones sink into the hip sockets. In next variation, we're going to keep the right leg as it is and plant the left foot onto the wall. Now, this is a little more extreme into the hips. You might need to move away from the wall a little bit to make this happen. And so feel free to do that so that your tailbone can stay down. Okay, you want your left leg to open evenly, so you're not turning out the foot more than the knee. It's really all opening evenly, the knee and the foot together. And you're keeping even weight on both your hips. Okay, breathing here. Good. Breathing in spaciousness until all of the muscles around the hips. And breathing out, releasing tension. Taking one more breath here. And then bend both legs in, and we'll go to the other side. Okay, so keeping your right leg bent, bringing the left leg out to the side, flexing the foot to start, making sure that your hips are evenly weighted, your tailbone is down, and then you can decide if you want to use your hands to assist the stretch, making sure that your shoulders are staying down. And then with your left foot, it can stay flexed. You can point it, you can circle it, whatever you like. Keeping the focus into the thigh bone, sinking into the hip socket, into the hips, sinking into the mat. Taking one more breath here. You might visualize how all of these stretches could be done sitting in the same way. Okay, next version, we're going to plant the right foot onto the wall. Okay, and again, making sure that both hips are staying evenly weighted, making sure that your right leg is turning out evenly. So you're not turning out the foot more than the knee, it's all going the same amount. Okay, breathing here, sinking weight into the tailbone. Letting your awareness really be into maybe just feeling subtle releases of the muscles around the hips, softening, feeling more weight here for one more breath. And then bring the legs in and bring them back up. Now, for our last set of stretches, we are going to need to move away from the wall so that your tailbone can be onto the floor with the legs bent. Now, how far away from the wall you move is going to be up to your flexibility. So just making sure that you're keeping your tailbone down, moving as far away as you need. And we'll start off where you're crossing your right ankle over the left knee. And you want to have that right foot flexed, so you're pulling the pinky toe back towards your knee so the ankle feels steady. And breathing here, this is more stretching out through the glutes. And so you could have a feeling of widening the sitting bones. And just staying here, you could keep the arms down. You could have your right hand just gently pressing your thigh open. Again, try not to go right on the knee itself, but more onto the thigh. Breathing slowly and fully. You could also thread your hands through. So your right arm is going into the space between the legs and you're holding on behind your left thigh or onto your shin so your leg comes completely away from the wall. If you're doing that variation again, make sure your tailbone is staying down, your shoulders are staying down and back, and that your chin is in, your neck feels comfortable. Okay, breathing here into the glutes, especially your right glute. And if you want to take this stretch even further, you can bring the left leg completely out of the way and cradle the right leg in your elbows. Okay, definitely you want to keep the right foot flexed if you're doing this version, and you want to keep your tailbone down so the spine can be long. So all of these versions are really good, just seeing what feels good for you, and it can change day by day. Okay, breathing here for our last few moments. And this particular stretch can be very good for the glutes, particularly if you have tension here and it's creating sciatic kind of pain. This can be very effective for reducing that. And it can carry on into the lower back. This is one particular stretch that I recommend everyone do some version of every day. Okay, so let's go to the other side. Okay, so we're going to plant the right foot onto the wall, cross the left ankle over the right knee, flexing the foot. Finding your distance if you need to adjust that. It can be different side to side. Okay, so just taking note of that. And then just staying here with the arms down. Or if you like, you can have some pressure onto the left thigh. Breathing slowly and fully. You could thread your left hand into the space between the legs and hold on behind the thigh or onto the shin so your foot comes completely away from the wall. Just making sure, again, your tailbone is down, your shoulders are back and comfortable, your chin is in. And if you want to go into the most advanced version, you bring your right leg completely out of the way. You cradle the left leg into your elbows. And just making sure that the tailbone is staying down and that your left foot is staying flexed. And just taking your last few breaths here in either variation, any of the variations are great. Good last breath here. And relax. And then just bring the legs out. You can bend your knees, roll to the side, press yourself up to sit. Excellent work. Okay, this next set of stretches is going to be done kneeling. And so I really recommend that you have some padding underneath your knee. I'm using a folded up towel, and that you have something like yoga blocks to support your alignment. If you don't have blocks, you could use two books that are quite thick, or you could use 2 cans of soup, something like that to give us some height. We're going to be starting off by stretching out the hip flexors, the muscles in the front of the hip. And these muscles are often tight especially if we're spending a lot of time sitting. Okay, so we'll get set up into our first stretch, which is a lunge. Okay, you want to have your right foot forward and your left foot back, and your foot far enough forward that your knee is right up on top of your heel. And you want to have your hands right underneath your shoulders with the right leg to the outside. And so you could let this right leg turn out slightly to the corner of the room, just making sure that your knee and your toes turn the same amount so that you can easily bring your hips forward and your chest up. And then with the blocks or the books, whatever you're using, make sure they're high enough that you can really lift up out of the stretch, that you can feel length through the hip, through the spine, and through the shoulders. Okay, and if you're using yoga blocks, you can always adjust the height of them for how you're feeling that day. And we'll start off with our first stretch where you are sending your hips forward, you're sending your chest out and up, the shoulders are drawing down away from the ears. And we'll just breathe here slowly, breathing in slowly and out. Just setting up a beautiful rhythm so that the muscles can relax with that steadiness. And then feel free to stay in this stretch. It can feel really nice, or we'll add some dynamic movement. And this dynamic movement actually can increase the flexibility in your hips faster. And so you're welcome to try it on and see if that works for you. And so we'll inhale as you're sending your chest out and up. And as you exhale, round your spine into the angry cat. And you're pressing your left shin down and slightly forward, almost like you're dragging it forward as you pull your navel in. And then inhale as your hips come down and your chest goes forward and up. And we'll do 3 more. Breathing out as you round the spine, drawing the navel in, pressing your shin down and dragging it forward. So we're actually firing the muscles in the front of the hip a little bit. And then we're releasing them as you breathe in and send the chest forward and up for 2 more. Breathing out, rounding the spine, pressing the shin down, dragging forward, drawing the navel in, not hunching your shoulders, and inhaling as you send your hips down and your chest up for your last one. Breathing out, squeezing the navel in, activating these hip muscles just a little bit to wake them up, and then releasing them as you breathe in, sending your chest forward and up. Okay, and we'll go into our next stretch, which is for the hamstrings. And so you want to shift your hips back, Move the blocks back so that they're underneath your shoulders. You want to have your low back as straight as possible. So you can always make the blocks taller so that you can get your spine straight, your shoulders down, and your chest reaching out. And this right leg can stay out to the side. That actually can feel better if your hamstrings are a little bit tight. Or you could bring the leg in between the two arms, and that's a little bit more stretchy. So you can decide what feels best for you. Now, it's important that you reach the right sitting bone back, but it's not important whether the knee straightens. I never want you to hyperextend or lock the knee, okay? So just lengthen it to your best, most comfortable position. Stay on the very center of your heel as you're pulling your toes back, so you're not rolling your ankle side to side. And then we'll just stay and breathe here, lengthening the spine, reaching your right sitting bone back and pulling your chest forward. And again, breathing slowly here. We can stay and hold the stretch, or we'll add a little bit of dynamic movement. So as you inhale, you're moving your hips over to the right. And as you exhale, they go over to the left. So it's a little bit like you have a tail and your tailbone and you're moving it side to side. Inhaling to the right and exhaling to the left. Okay, and just continue, again, keeping your low back straight, coming up higher on the blocks if you need to, sending your shoulders down. And we'll do two more. Inhaling to one side and exhaling to the other side. For one more. Inhaling side and exhaling side. Good. Okay. And then the final stretch will be for the inner thighs. You probably don't need the yoga blocks for this one. You might, but probably not. We're going to turn to the side. And so just adjust your left shin so that the foot is right behind the knee and you're facing completely sideways onto your mat. And then from here, we're going to stretch out the groin by sliding out to the side with your right leg, lowering yourself down in your comfort zone, coming down with elbows bent, or you can even rest on your elbows if you like, and you could use the blocks for that as well. Okay, and then breathing here, we're sending the hips back and up. Okay, and breathing here, slowly and fully. Okay, we have 5 inner thigh muscles. And so when we did the stretches against the wall, that stretched some of them. This stretch goes into a few other ones, into the groin. And so the variety really makes sure that we're completely balanced. And just make sure you're able to breathe fully and slowly. If your breath is getting tight, it might be a sign that you've gone too deep into the stretch. So you might need to come up and out of it a little bit. That's totally fine. This is a deep stretch. So let's just take one more breath here, sending your hips back and up. And then slowly bring yourself out of it. Move slowly because we have been in a deep stretch. And we're going to do this all to the other side. Okay, so set yourself up in the lunge with the padding underneath your right knee, your blocks forward, your left foot forward so that the knee is right on top of the ankle and that you can bring your hips forward. So let the leg be out to the side. It can be slightly turned out if you like. And then bringing the blocks into position underneath your shoulders, adjusting the height to the position that feels best for you, where you can lengthen out the body and really lift the chest. And that can be different day by day, okay? So then just finding yourself in a beautiful lunge stretch with the hips down. You're sending your chest forward and up. And we'll breathe here. Just press down into your blocks so your shoulders can come away from the ears. Draw the navel in and almost feeling like you're pulling yourself forward. Okay, staying here, breathing slowly. Or if you like, we can add that dynamic motion. Breathing in, you're sending your chest forward and up. Breathing out, you're rounding your spine into the angry cat, pressing your right knee down and forward, dragging it forward, drawing the navel in, and then inhaling, releasing the hips, sending your chest forward and up. And for 3 more, breathing out as you round the spine, pressing your back knee down, slightly dragging it forward so the muscles are firing slightly, and then you release it. Breathing in as you let the hips sink down and the chest come forward. For 2 more, breathing out as you round the spine. The shoulders are relaxed away from the ears, and breathing in, sending your chest forward for 1 more time. Breathing out. Squeeze the navel to the spine, really fire the core muscles, and breathing in, sending your chest forward and up. Okay, and then moving into part 2, stretching the hamstrings. Stretch your front leg, send your hips back, move the blocks back so they're underneath your shoulders, and then you can decide if you want to keep the left leg a little bit out to the side, especially if you're feeling a little bit stiff, or if you want to bring it in so that your hands are on either side of the leg and your hips are more even. Find your position, find the height of the blocks that feels good for you so you can really lengthen out through your spine. And then you're sending your left sitting bone back, lifting your toes up, really staying even on your heel, and just making sure whether your knee is bent or straight, that it's not hyperextending. You're not locking the knee. So a bent knee is totally fine. Okay, and breathing here, lengthening out through the spine, and pressing down into the block so you can send your chest forward. Stay here and breathe slowly. Or if you like, we can add the movement with the hips. Breathing in as you're shifting the hips to the left, and breathing out as you're shifting the hips to the right. And just continue like you have a tail on your tailbone, breathing in one way, breathing out the other way. Good. Breathing in slowly and breathing out slowly for 2 more. Feeling the spine stay long. This is what will actually give you the most stretch in the hips, is aligning the spine and the pelvis really well. Okay, just finishing your last one here. Okay, and then we'll go into the groin stretch. And so move the blocks off to the side unless you found using them to be really helpful. Turn to the side and just adjusting your right shin so that the foot is right behind the knee. You're sideways onto your mat, and then sliding your left leg out into your desired stretch, resting onto your hands, letting your elbows bend, or landing your elbows. Okay, and then just staying here, you're sending your hips back and slightly up. Okay, this is a deep stretch. So just making sure that you're not holding your breath, that you can breathe fully into these muscles. If you do feel your breath tight, come up a little bit. You'll actually get more flexible by backing off a little bit. The muscles can relax and lengthen rather than react and tighten, which can really set you back. So let's just take one more slow, full breath here. And then just slowly bring yourself out of it. Move slowly. Be gentle on your body. Fantastic. Okay, and so we've made it to the final section of stretching. Now, this is the most advanced sequence. And so for some of you, this might be something to work towards over time. And so feel free to just practice the other stretches and then just see how it feels as you gently make your way towards this. For others who are more flexible and open in their hips, this might feel like a really fun challenge. So just really listen to your body and respect it. Okay, I really recommend that you have a yoga block or something like that with you. And we're going to start off in a lunge. And so you step your right foot forward. Your knee is right on top of your ankle. Knee and toes are pointing straight ahead. Have the block right underneath your shoulders, your left leg back. straight. Have your feet about shoulder width apart, so quite a wide stance between the legs. And we're sinking the hips towards the floor as you reach your chest out and up, and just breathing slowly and fully here. Good. In this stretch, as you're sinking the hips down, press away through your left heel. So the knee is aiming to be straight. So you can really get a deep stretch into the front of the hip. Now, just taking one more breath here. Shoulders are down, chest is forward. And then turn your left foot out so that the heel lands and move the block in towards the instep of your right foot. Now, when you look down your right heel, you should see space so that the legs are not one behind the other. It's like they each have their own lane of traffic. They're a little bit apart. And we're going to bring the left hand onto the tailbone and open the chest. And staying here, the most important thing is to keep your right knee open. Drive it out towards the pinky toe side. Curl your right sitting bone underneath you. Scoop the navel in and lift the chest. And we're trying to soften the muscles in the front of your right hip. As you're breathing here, your left foot is pressing down, especially through the pinky toe side. We're lifting the arch of the foot as we sink the hips down and open the right knee. And taking one more breath here, letting the chest open. And then bring your hands down, lift your back heel, and we're going to twist, keeping your left head onto the block, bringing the right hand onto the tailbone. Lengthen out through the spine and twist the chest to the right. And staying here, we want to level the hips. So with your hand onto your tailbone, feel your left hip lift and your right hip lower as you lengthen out through the spine and rotate the chest up. Okay, breathing here. Again, press away through your left heel so the back leg is straight. But as you sink your right hip down and lift your chest for one more breath. And then land both hands down. We're going to step into a squat. So step both feet forward and bend your knees. Now allow the feet and knees to turn out if that feels comfortable for you. As long as they turn out the same amount, that's fine. And I want your heels to be in contact with something. So feel free to roll up your mat, put a towel underneath your heels, or hold on to something in front of you. When your heels are in contact with the ground, there's less pressure on your knee joints. Okay? And as you sink your tailbone down towards the floor, lift your chest. Okay, breathing here. Your arms on the inside of the legs can gently press the knees open, lifting the inner arches of your feet, which really helps to lift and open up the groin. And just taking one more breath here. And then stretch the legs. Give your hips a little bit of a shake. Now we're going to go to the other side. You could, right from here, send your right leg back into the lunge. I'm going to turn around so that we can see each other a little easier. So you're in the lunge with the left foot forward, right leg back, and your feet are shoulder width apart. They're kind of wide. Hey, make sure your knee is right on top of your heel. Knee and toes are pointing straight ahead. And you're sinking the hips to the floor as you reach your chest out. These slow, full breaths here. Press your right heel back so the leg is straight as your hips sink down and the chest lifts. Keep breathing slowly and fully for one more breath. And then land your right heel down, turning the foot out. Bring the block into the inner arch of your left foot. And just making sure that when you look down your left heel, there's space. Each foot has its own lane of traffic. Bring your right hand onto your tailbone. Lift and open your chest towards the sky. Breathing here, you're opening your left knee, driving it out towards the pinky toe side. You're curling your left sitting bone underneath you, drawing your navel in, and then opening your chest. Okay, breathing slowly here. Okay, pressing down through the right foot, through the pinky toe side of the foot, lifting the inner arch of the foot as you sink your hips down. And just take one more breath here, lifting and opening up the heart. And then land your hands down, lift your back heel, and set yourself up for the twist. So we're keeping the right hand down onto the block, left hand is onto the tailbone. We lengthen out through the spine and turn the chest up to the left. Okay, staying here, feeling your hand onto your tailbone. You want to lift your right hip, lower your left hip, and lift your chest up and away. Okay, breathing here, you're pressing away through your right heel. That leg is trying to stay straight. And just taking one more slow, full breath here. And then land your hands and we'll come into the squat. So step your feet forward and then bending your knees. Now, feel free to let your knees and toes open the same amount so that you're not twisting through the foot or the knee. And bring your arms to the inside of the knees, hands together into prayer if you can. Okay, the heels are in contact with something. So rolling up your mat, bringing a towel underneath your heels, holding onto something in front of you. We want to avoid lots of pressure into the knees all the time. Okay, staying here, tailbone is down and chest is lifted. So as I say, these are deep stretches. Don't rush the process and just find your way towards them in baby steps, right? So your body is not getting too much of a good thing. And just taking one more breath here. And then stretch the legs, give your hips a little shake, and relax down. Awesome. So thank you for working out with me. We did a lot of fantastic stretching for the hips. So good for you. And if you did find this how-to useful, as always, I invite you to give it a like, to subscribe to my channel, and to share it with those whom you think might benefit. Now, in the description, you'll find a link to the Fully Embodied Fitness Workout Series, which is a series of workouts that I've designed to improve and increase strength, especially core strength, flexibility, balance, posture, coordination, and overall body connection. So if feeling more fully embodied sounds interesting to you, I invite you to check that out. Until the next time, as always, I'm wishing you well. Take good care.